Joining us now, founding partner of Puck and the former editor of The Hollywood Reporter, Matthew Bellamy. Matthew, good to see you this morning. So let's talk through Hollywood first, beginning with the strikes, what it cost Hollywood, what it meant to the industry, and how it changes things.
Yeah, that was definitely the story of the year in Hollywood. About 6 months of work stoppage between the two strikes, the writers and the actors. The actors hadn't gone on strike in more than 40 years. They made pretty significant gains in these strikes, both in wages. They got protections against AI. We'll see how that plays out. There are some minimum guarantees on employment for writers that I think the writers think are pretty significant. But the cost of this strike was so significant to the overall industry. Some estimates of up to about $6 billion was sucked out of the entertainment industry economy. And that's going to be the story of 2024 as well, trying to come back from these strikes. Production is now ramping up again, but we've had movie delays. The box office for 2024 is going to be significantly impacted. You as a consumer are going to notice in the spring when there are fewer TV shows. So it's a really tough situation that we're coming out of. But the guilds, the unions did make some pretty big gains here.
Luckily, there's so much banked on streaming right now that I think we can survive until they refill it for us. So, Matthew, let's talk about streaming. Obviously, it's where everything already is. It's not even where it's going anymore. It's where everything is. And Netflix had a very big year in that regard. How come they came out on top?
Yeah, Netflix really pulled away from the other streaming services this year. They have this combination of scale. They have 250 million subscribers worldwide. This year, they cracked down on the password sharing. You may have noticed if multiple people use your Netflix password that they politely nudged you to get your own subscription. That worked. It juiced subscribers. At the same time, they started making these global hits out of random shows like Suits. Suits became a phenomenon. That was a show that aired on the USA Network 10 years ago, and it became one of the biggest shows of the year on Netflix. Wednesday, huge hit. And then Netflix at the end of the year started releasing the ratings data that showed us that some of these shows on Netflix, like The Night Agent or The Diplomat, these shows are generating billions of hours of viewing on Netflix. And the other streaming services just aren't keeping up to that level. So much so that they have started selling a lot of their shows to Netflix. You can now watch HBO shows on Netflix. You can watch DC movies on Netflix. Netflix is really dominating and pulling away from the other competitors.
I have to ask you on the Suits thing, because that became this phenomenon this year. As you say, it's a decade-old show. Was that a Meghan Markle thing because she used to be on the show, or what prompted that?
I think it was a factor. You could put Meghan Markle on the little tile and people were like, oh, yeah, Meghan Markle was on a TV show. Let's check that out. I think it also is just that it's a fun, fast, procedural, lean back, turn your brain off show that people like. And the Netflix algorithm really juices that. Once a certain cohort of people start watching it, they start serving it to other people, and then it becomes this big, viral thing that everybody is then watching. So I think it's part the platform, and it's also part the show.
We also have to give a shout out to Peacock, growing very fast, and we're proud to have Morning Joe on there as well. Matthew, let me ask you about the Barbenheimer phenomenon. It was the story of the box office this year, and the idea that the box office theaters were gone after the pandemic and everything else that had moved to streaming. This was a very big moment, was it not, for movie theaters in America?
Absolutely. I think Barbenheimer really showed that nothing can dominate the culture like hit movies on a global scale. Barbie got to $1.4 billion. Oppenheimer, a movie that was 3 hours long, largely in black and white, got to about $950 worldwide. That is a huge win, but it masks an overall problem for the movie industry. If you look back to 2019, one studio, Disney, released 6 movies that grossed $1 billion worldwide. This year, Disney had 0. And the entire movie industry only produced 2 movies that got to $1 billion, Barbie and the Super Mario Brothers movie from Universal. So that's a real problem. And box office overall is going to be about 20% down in 2023 from pre-COVID times. And the projections for next year are not better because of all these strike-related delays. So the box office has not recovered despite the huge success of Barbenheimer.
Yeah, you can't count on a Barbenheimer every summer. Fascinating. So much at play in Hollywood and media right now. Matthew Bellany, thanks for bringing it to us. We appreciate it.